Well, I haven't been live for a while. What with I spent a couple of weeks leaving the UK, as in saying goodbye to all my family because I didn't know when I would see them again. I've been back in Australia for a couple of weeks, settling down here, and yeah, so it's 2 weeks today that I was back, and I'm really ready. Not that I haven't been working at all, but I'm really ready again to start focusing on what I was teaching over my Facebook Lives. So I thought that today I'm going to touch on a subject and hopefully it will help you. And what I wanted to talk about is the big difference between information and transformation. So, and what I mean is the fact is that about almost anything that you want to find out about, there is a whole host of information out there. Doesn't matter whether it's about eating healthily, whether it's about your mental health, running a business, how to change the battery on a car, you name it, it's out there. All the information is out there. So let's take mental health because that's what we deal with when we're talking about people recovering from the trauma of abuse. It causes all sorts of emotional and mental health issues. So you could actually go online at the moment and you could find a whole selection of resources. You can find articles, you can find blogs, videos. You'll find that there are books. There is such a lot of information out there, and the fact is that information is not transformation. So if you come across an article and it's 12 ways to deal with your depression, that's fantastic. But if the article in itself was enough, if you think about all the information that's out there about how to deal with almost anything, if that information in itself was enough, then no one would actually have these issues. You'd just be able to read the article that says 12 ways to deal with your depression. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't read your names, but thank you ever so much for joining. So if it was as easy as the information that's out there, 12 ways to deal with my depression, oh great, I'll just read that and apply it. If you think about that, no one would have mental health issues because all the information is there. And this is what I'm saying about the difference between the information and the transformation that has to take place. So it's okay having the information and you can read it and you can agree with it and you can say, yeah, this sounds great. But the problem is actually applying the information. And obviously this applies to anything. And this is where and why having the information isn't enough. There are very, very few people that can change their lives or change a situation or how they feel about something, seriously make relationship changes just by having the information. And there's a lot of reasons for this, and I just want to touch on some of them. And one of the really, really important ones is to understand how the mind works. And you really can't make changes based on what you read unless you understand how your mind works. Because one of the ways your mind works is your mind, whether it's serving you or not, your mind likes what's familiar. So the second you try to make changes, your fear factor is going to cut in to keep you where you are. So you're going to be reading the book. Let's say you try to apply something. Your mind says, oh, this isn't familiar. I don't know what this is. I don't know why we're doing this. And you immediately feel scared. So several things are going to happen. The first thing is you're going to think you're doing the wrong thing. You're going to acknowledge that you're scared. And the third thing that's likely to happen is you are going to stop the change that you're trying to make, even though in your conscious mind you think it's the right thing to do, because your subconscious is giving you a message. Your amygdala, your fear system has cut in because this is unfamiliar to tell you that you shouldn't be doing it. So at that point, you stop. Now if you are working with someone, if you are working, this is what happens when my clients work with me. And actually, this was prompted this morning because I got an email from one of my clients telling me about something that they were struggling with. This is in between sessions, something that's happened. And this thing could actually derail them if they were on their own. I can guarantee you this would be, they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know how to handle this, what this was, how they feel. But when you're working with someone, when you're doing the deep inner work and you have someone who understands this, understands that it's a process and knows how to get you there, that's an absolute game changer and is the difference between information and transformation. Because what happened, of course, that my client felt this, they contacted me. I've got straight back to her to say, yes, don't worry about this. This is bound to happen. This is why it happens. Just carry on. So she's got the assurance, she's got the support, and she's got everything she needs now to carry on the path that we've put in place until our next session. And what will happen in our next session, I already know what she's struggled with. So I know where we need to go in our next session. But imagine if that was just information. And this is what I'm saying, information rarely provides transformation. It's a good catalyst, I agree. It's really good. It's good to read stuff. It'll get you started. It'll get you thinking. But there are very, very few people who have not worked with a coach, a therapist, a mentor to help them implement what they need to put in place to change their lives. And especially in what I do, people who have suffered abuse, the problem with abuse is that it completely undermines who you are as a person. There are some things, obviously the details are different, but there are certain things that there are patterns, there are ways that people who've been abused, and it doesn't really matter what the abuse is, that they feel unimportant, they feel that they have no value, no worth, that they have no voice, they have no choice. They become completely seeped in a lack of self-confidence and a lack of belief in themselves. And obviously, when you're in that situation and you get hold of, I've had people say this to me, they read things and they contact me and they say, well, I've just read X and I have no idea where to start with this. And that's fine, and that's totally understandable, because when you've had years of your confidence in yourself and your belief in other people, really, and the way that you see the world being totally eroded or being put across to you in a certain way, how can you possibly take a piece of information and just apply it? You can't. Because you're not even the kind, you don't even see yourself as a person that can be what this information is telling you. But when you work with someone and they take you through the stages and through the steps, that's when you're going to get there. That's when you're going to get transformation. It's a process. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, and there are specific things that need to happen at each stage. I don't move my clients along at a rocket pace. I move them at a pace when they are ready. When they've absorbed this piece of information, we move on to this one and we build on this. And this is the next bit, and this is the next bit. It's like building a house. You don't put the bricks in before you've got the foundation. You don't put the electrics in before the roof is in. There's a method, there's a strategy, there's a right way of doing it, but there are certain things that you have to have for the whole thing to work. And let's say that information for me, it's not the foundation. Information isn't even the foundation. Information is the thought of pouring a foundation. That's what information is. Information is the very, very first seed. And it takes an awful lot more than that to change your life and to recover from the trauma of abuse in particular. So one of the things I wanted to touch on here, I said about understanding how the mind works. And one of the big things that I work on in my programs is your belief in yourself, which has become totally eroded. And this is so important for any transformational work. It's all about the whole foundation for me is about teaching you to love yourself. The one thing, well, there's many things actually that most of my clients have in common, and the one thing that runs through everything is that they believe they are not lovable. They just don't see themselves as lovable. It would be, if I was lovable, so and so wouldn't have left me. If I was lovable, this wouldn't have happened to me. I must be a really bad person because this happened to me. There are all sorts of thoughts like that that run through everything. So it's very much about, one of the very, very firm foundations is teaching you to love yourself before we move on to the other things. And there's a lot that goes into that. And one of the things that's really, really key that people don't understand, and I think this is how people can be in therapy, and I had someone contact me this morning, said they've been seeing a psychiatrist regularly for 4 years, and haven't really made much progress. And I think what this is where the subconscious and the conscious mind aren't aligned, because all of the trauma that has happened to you and the abuse that has happened, it literally, and someone used a fantastic word recently, you have been marinated in these negative thoughts about yourself, these negative beliefs, that you've literally absorbed them and they've become who you think you are. And it really doesn't matter what anyone says to you, talking to your conscious, logical mind. This stuff is not in your logical mind. This stuff is your blueprint, and it's stored in your subconscious. So your subconscious is like a huge vault, and it holds all your perceptions, all your experiences, all your emotions. And that carries on through your life, and it drives your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, your beliefs about yourself. And it doesn't, I can take someone who's been through trauma, and logically they're looking at themselves saying, I don't know why I'm so scared all the time. I'm an adult in my own house and I know that no one can hurt me. This is the logical mind now, and yet I am terrified. And that's a really good example. The reason you are terrified is that all the trauma is stored in your subconscious, and your subconscious is still telling you that you are this scared, hurting child and that you need to be afraid. So we've got these two messages. We've got the conscious dealing with the logic, and we've got the subconscious dealing with the perceptions, the experiences, and the emotions. And you cannot override all of this with logic. If you could, we wouldn't need people in therapy. We'd just be able to say to them, oh, this was all a long time ago. It's not going to happen to you again. Of course, you're not that person. And again, you can see that that isn't what happens. People get absorbed in this stuff. It runs through every tissue, every fiber, it's the essence of who you are. And that is what we need to change. We need to change your belief about the very essence of who you are, so that you can move forward to live a rich and fulfilling life.